And you are welcome back to our viewers on television. You are welcome. This is The Big Issue. My name is Mensah Opoku. I'm sitting in for your regular host, Godfred Akoto Boafo. And for our listeners on radio, I would like to say welcome back to the show. The first 1 hour is gone. We've been discussing the Manifesto assessment, which has scored the MPP government some 48.78%, as well as the Afrobarometer survey on voter sentiment. About 4 out of every 10 Ghanaians, they are saying, say they will not vote in the next election. 12% are undecided, and some other revelations coming out from that report. So we are discussing these two reports. That's what we've been doing for the past 1 hour. I have in studio the Honorable Alexander Aban. He's MP for Gomoa West. He's Deputy Minister of Health. He's a lawyer. Yes. We also have private legal practitioner Opong. He was making the submission there before we went to that break. We've been joined by Alhaji Inus Afuseni, Ranking Member, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. He's also a lawyer, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, and sad to say that he will not be coming back to Parliament. He has decided voluntarily not to come back to Parliament. Franklin Kujo, we spent the better part of the last hour speaking to him, giving us insights into the Manifesto report, which was done by an organization he leads, that's Imani Africa. And of course, the indefatigable
still looking for adjectives.
Sidney Gesley-Effort is a financial analyst, member of Occupy Ghana, and he's also joined us. So these are the men who will be analyzing the issues for us. But for the issues that we've discussed over the past 1 hour, you've been bringing in some comments. Let me clear them quickly, and then we move to continue with the discussions. Positive Change from Madina Zongo Junction says 2020 elections will be like a movie without scripts. Ghanaians are going to vote with their brains and minds. Martin Luther from Laboni says the maxim of law states, he who seeks equity must come with clean hands. How could Mahama, who has been cited with several corrupt cases, dare President Akufo-Addo, whose character is without question? The president once again proved through the media encounter he's on top of government and the economy. We'll come to the media encounter soon. Citizen Francis says, I perfectly agree with the president for scoring his government 72% in the fulfillment of his 2016 campaign promises. No government has performed better than his government in their first 3 years. One good term deserves another. Kwesi Reynolds, Aguna Odobin, yesterday's media encounter with the president is a much improvement on the previous ones. I think I'd like to thank journalists for the thought-provoking questions and the superb, tactful and candid answers by the president. Clearly, the president is focused. Regards to Mr. Ernest Kumi of Akwitia constituency. Prince Henry Koforidua, good morning, Duke and your team. Good morning. The true assessment and score for the MPP government is best taken from the markets, trotro stations, drinking bars, and the likes. And when you go there, the general assessment or the general admission is that Akufo-Addo's and Baumia have failed Porto and they must be dropped come 2020. So that's Prince Edwin and Koforidua. Walanyo in Akwetia says President Akufo-Addo deserves 4 more years to deliver Ghana totally from the slavery in which the NDC took us. We are gradually approaching the promised land, but the NDC will continue to assess the president without telling us what their manifesto contains. Indeed, NDC is a scary alternative. Mahama Ba Kojo from Assume, the Eastern region, self-rating that 48.78%. That is E8 too. Well, I don't know which scale you are using. 48.78 is not E8. It's not E8. Mahama Ba. It's not E8. Even the Imani skill set is satisfactory. But 48 is not that bad. It's just 2 points below the pass mark. Anyway, I think you deserve below that, or the president deserves below that. How can you set your own exams and mark yourself? That is from Mahama Ba Kojo from Assume, that's in the Eastern region. So I'll come back to the studio. Lawyer Point, you were making the point about the Manifesto assessment and then the Afrobarometer. You were talking about how healthy such assessments are.
Yes. So I'm saying that we need to commend Imani because, I'm hearing for the first time that and I will just say that the president at the time he was campaigning promised that if he was elected, he was going to ensure that over 500 promises were fulfilled. And that is, for me, quite revealing. Because I never thought that there were even more than 100. And so we need to commend them. I mean, the fact that they have brought this out in the first place is quite commendable. And we need to appreciate that.
And as you said, they've been doing this since 2000.
And I think that this is one of the institutions that if we had a well-established research fund or institution, there's no reason why we should not support them to, as it were, provision of resources and even cash to be doing this.
I don't know if they will support.
By the way,
I don't know if they will
this
accept
was
that.
Totally non-funded. This particular exercise, we did it by ourselves.
Yeah,
It didn't have any support from any
funded by external
donor
person, but
agency
you funded
or
it.
no.
So the institution
This
funded
particular,
it.
yes, the institution funded it.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's
supported
nothing
by
wrong.
Was
with
that the decision, a deliberate decision, or just
Well,
that
it's
it could
been
not
one of our.
attract?
Use the let me
Because
use the
2016,
let me use the
there
politician's
was
language.
funding.
Yeah, 2016 there was because we're doing the critical analysis together and all of that.
Yeah.
But as we've maintained it in 2018, not funded. 2019, not funded. But it's because it's our flagship project, and I'm using flagship here as a
Adversibly.
So
Is it your 1D1F or your free SHS?
Yes. So
Or your 200 senior high schools?
The consultants I had agreed,
Yeah.
and they have to agree that they work on non-bailable projects as well. So this is one of them. So kudos to the team, by the way. I'm only just a mere conveyor of what has been done. They spend nights, almost 2 weeks, doing all of this. Sometimes getting back home around 4 a.m.
Wow.
And in fact, on the day the presentation we made, they met until 4 a.m.
Wow.
Just to be sure, again,
Go
and
through
everything checked out.
Okay.
But then, yes, I mean, coming back.
So thank you. Yeah,
No, that's
So would you be willing to accept government?
Oh,
or
why not?
State support for?
Like
well,
to get
as a
maybe
as
it's
a
a
think
think
tank,
tank
we are
they
quite a
will be-
libertarian think tank.
Yeah.
We really do not. But of course, if it is put in certain joint projects, why not? It doesn't really matter.
But the fact
Okay,
that
so-
the ministries were open to them to even access this information is part of the resources that are available to them through the government. After all, people didn't say that we've taken an oath not to give this or that information.
No.
So it's not only about cash. Well, I said resources, but I don't think there's anything wrong if you were offered cash you should not accept it. You should accept it. After all, I think the important thing is when you are, as they say, when you are a chief or a king, respect those who tell you the things you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
All right, because they generally will be the ones telling you the truth, and not the king. The king's cloth is very nice when you know the king is naked, and then by the time he realizes that he has no cloth on, it would have been too late. Others would have seen that no, he's going crazy. You understand? So we have to appreciate the work of those who tell us even the things that we think are painful. But going to it, I think that I find the word fulfilled a bit problematic in terms of my understanding, because a number of these promises, to achieve them, they are contingent upon others. So if you say yet to be implemented, and one of them is strict enforcement of Procurement Act. This is one of the things that are yet to be implemented. But I think that even though there have been a few cases of violation of the Procurement Act, I think by and large, at least from what the minister told us in the budget and also the State of the Nation by the President, that we've saved some monies, even though we are yet to be told specific monies that have been saved by compliance with the Procurement Act. So I think if that constitutes fulfillment, then in a way, I may not agree that it is yet to be implemented or achieved. Then yet to also be implemented election of MMDCEs and also ROPA. I mean, we all know that at least this is also contingent upon other variables and events. And if you take the intention to commence it and actually putting in place the facilities to implement it, which itself was dependent upon, for example, a referendum or even Parliament participating in the passage of a law. So would you say that, for example, because the referendum, for example, could not come on, the fact of commencement of the process itself will not amount to an achievement or a fulfillment.
Let me just jump in quickly.
Okay.
So on the specific one about the procurement, for instance, I mean, if you say you adhere strictly to the Procurement Act, what it actually means is that in every government's conduct, when it comes to procurement, you would adhere strictly. You would not even hear any incidents of, all of this shenanigans.
Yeah.
So the score there is not zero. It's actually partially, because it's on its way. We recognize that there are challenges. So the score there is not zero. That's why we said it's being implemented. You understand? So it is not cast necessarily in stone.
That's right.
The other point about the MMDCs, we recognize that as well, that there were steps made towards achieving that. So the score is not fully zero, but to say that it's not been done. You may have done several things to encourage it, but you said you deliver it anyway. So we recognize that and not give you zero. We recognize the steps you are taking, just as we've recognized them in other instances of the promises as well.
With all due respect, that ties in very well with what I said, that you may have the substantive promises of and the processes towards achieving.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and on this, I think it will be extremely important that we get the manifesto itself and the language that was used, because I will be surprised that I will read from the MPP manifesto that we will ensure that ROPAL is implemented. Everybody knows that. That substantially depends on the EC itself.
Yeah,
and over the years...
But that's the
so that's why I'm saying that if the MPP or the president then, as a person campaigning, had said that I will ensure ROPAL is implemented, then I'll have a problem with that promise itself and the language, if that was what was used. Because then maybe what is coming out if you like, in the form of education, is even the language you use in the promise must also be carefully crafted. Yeah. Because then there are certain things you cannot just achieve, as I said, unless some other contingent matters are rather fulfilled before you can even. So, for example, if you pass a law, you ensure that, let's say, Freedom of Information Bill to be passed into law. Strictly speaking, I mean, that was actually within the realm of Parliament to pass it or not. Of course, the government
will have to
push it and implemented it and so on. So I think when you look at, for example, inability of persons with disability to participate in free SHS, I do not understand how that is about. Is it the case that because these schools don't have facilities to ensure that persons with disability are not able to access the physical structures of these schools, or that there has not been a conscious effort to ensure that, let's say, the school in Ekropon, the school for the deaf. Is it the case that there hasn't been any implementation of some policies and facilities to ensure that they benefit? Are they paying their school fees? Whilst those without disability
exactly what challenges was the government seeking to clear for them?
That is the point. Then I may like to understand from what angle.
So it depends on you see, you made a very fundamental point, which is useful. The nature of the promise itself is very critical. So when you say something like this, access, basically disability, people having access as part of the education system, well, the issue really is that have we seen that incrementally? So it's not everywhere. We are not talking about specialized schools. We are talking about those schools that have people. Challenge
to integrate disability-friendly measures into the normal school system.
Maybe access to buildings and all of that. Yes. It's actually the point. So it depends on how you actually make the promise. Yes. Let me give you another example. So, for instance, they said they'll provide Wi-Fi services to
university campuses,
all SHS schools. We know one or two of them have them, but clearly, we know it is also not the case that every SHS school. So the score there is not zero. It is like 0.2 or something, because then we know very well that it's not gone everywhere. But you started. You've done it. In fact, on ROPA, this is what exactly they said. We shall expand further the opportunities that will allow Ghanaians living abroad to participate fully in our national discourse and benefit fully from the opportunities this nation has to offer. In furtherance of this, we will help in the implementation of the representation of the people's law.
Help
in the implementation. Yes.
So this question came up yesterday in the Meet the Press, and the president's answer was that
it's in the realm of the
Electoral Commission. Of course, the government will have to provide resources to be able to even open up our missions abroad and so on.
Which is exactly the point.
Which is the point we are making. So you help in the implementation.
So the question is, have there not been, or is there no evidence that steps have been taken or are being taken by the government to ensure that? So, and it still sits into what I said, that if the Electoral Commission decides not to do it, then this help will not.
There's no way you can even assess this
because then it can even be seen as interfering with the performance of the functions of the EC.
Yeah, when the president was clear, it is in the domain of the EC.
Yes.
But then in their manifesto, they said we'll help.
Yeah. So apart from the fact that we are looking at what has been achieved and so on,
do you score 1 out of 1 when you see that the help has been given?
Of course,
if there's evidence
of help, why not?
Yeah, so in that case, but then whether or not they can help depends on whether the ECs themselves have taken the initial step.
Of course, we review all of those.
So we are going into the same as how to craft election promises or how to craft manifesto promises.
I'm sure the political parties are paying attention, getting to the next election. Crafting of manifestos, even the wording will become a matter that
is very important.
Of serious pondering.
And that is the biggest part of what you have done, the revelation that I'm picking from it. Because then you have research and development undermined by the absence of land use policy. I think there's a land use policy. In fact, it's been all throughout.
Currently, there's a new land bill in Parliament.
There's a new land bill, actually very comprehensive, extremely going to take care of all the scattered, if you like, laws on land. And so, but there is a specific act that has been passed on land use policy, and that will also be incorporated into the new land bill, but I think it's taking too long.
The second reading was done last week, if my memory serves me right.
So,
so Parliament is actually on that.
Because a lot of funds have been pumped into this particular thing. For more than 12 or 15 years now, they've been working on it. So we would like to see that also done. And perhaps that will give you a score. And as Franklin said, there are some of them that it may not even cost you anything or much, like bringing back the People's Assembly.
Yeah.
I think Kufuor's time or so.
Is that not the same thing as the town hall meetings that have recently been introduced? Over the past 1 month, all DCs, MMDCs have been organizing town hall meetings in there. There was even there was the allegation that they were using that to campaign as a different concept.
I think the president himself is president.
Yes. People's Assembly, yes. People's Assembly, yes.
Of course. People's Assembly, they can even argue that they held some outside the country.
Yes, of course, yes. Some have been done outside. Maybe then we have to look at it now.
So part of what you are saying is critical. Also, the nature of the promises that are made, because some of them are quite vague, but then you struggle to even know how to say codify it or anything.
Okay. So you're making the point that for people in the assembly shouldn't take much for the president to do it. You have the general public gather and ask the president questions.
And as he said, even some have been done in a couple of countries.
Whenever the president goes outside, he meets the Ghanaian community.
And so
that's the people
that opportunity can be taken when for example, when he was doing the regional tour. Someone may argue that itself may also constitute a form of it, but not a formal town hall assembly sort of thing or town hall meeting with the locals, so that he can listen to them firsthand, directly. Their satisfaction or dissatisfaction, any complaints or suggestions. I think that is what we are also looking for. So
and you see, the way they carved the promise was that the promise in the manifesto was that they'll continue what Kufuor did, basically. Town hall.
That brings
and it's easy to do. So they have 1 year to go. They can. It's possible they'll do it next year, and they can easily get ahead and do that.
So that's
Yes.
so the People's Assembly is what has become the presidential media encounter.
No, but of course that's
they
not
are
the
two-
media.
No, because
different.
Kufuor used to hold
But Kufuor did both
everybody-
I
People's
think he
Assembly
used to do both.
both,
and he did
yes,
media as well.
differently.
On
Well,
different
again,
occasions.
But
this is
since
not-
Mills,
this
we've
is
not
your
had this
problem.
discussion.
So my point is, what the president, when he was doing like the regional tours, he can just incorporate that into it. Set up a day, maybe or an hour or two, that I'm going to just listen to, quote and unquote, the ordinary Ghanaians in this particular constituency or district or town.
Yeah.
And I think that can easily be done, and it will reduce the yet to be fulfilled list. And quite a number of them too can easily be done. In terms of the economy, and that's why sometimes I say that we also need to marry what is said in the budget and what is being said on the ground.
Okay.
It's important that the Minister of Finance or his department gather all these views, the CDD, the Imani one, and the others. But I think too often we rather hear of the foreign ones and run with them. When then the opposite or the near opposite is what is reflected in researches that have been done by Ghanaians living in Ghana themselves. So they have to access these matters, and also especially the Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation. This is their job, and whether you are part of the government or not, perhaps there are some that have been given to the government in the quiet that we didn't know about. That may even be.
My understanding is that they are focused mainly on the
flagship
projects for now, basically.
Yes, but to be honest, to achieve within 3 years, to achieve over 140 promises, right?
Yeah.
I think that is quite huge. Except that if it is much against the number of promises you
150
made.
fully, 220 at various stages
How
of
many
completion.
fully? 140 plus.
Yes.
Yes.
150 actually.
That's what I'm saying. That, but to achieve 150 promises, and they are mostly, or the bigger chunk of it is the flagships. I mean, free education alone, especially in terms of how much funds go into it, should have been given about 45%.
Then you get into the realms of qualitative assessment.
Wow, that is very important.
But even then, under the economy, they made 54.35% because we group all these flagship projects there.
Yes.
So, however you look at it, it's the nature of your promises. Look, we can get into all kinds of analysis. For instance, when they said they will reduce taxes on electricity tariffs to provide immediate relief to household and industry, we scored them 1. But you and I really know that the net effect is actually 0.1%. Wow. It's actually 1% because there was an increase, there was a reduction, and there was later an increase. So if we want to get into the qualitative debate, if we start analyzing it properly, this thing would not look good.
To be honest with you, I think that is more important. The extent to which even the 140 that have been achieved have impacted our lives.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's important to do something like that.
Because the first, just to conclude, the important thing for me, the more important thing is not so much about the promises that were made, but then the effect, and not just even sometimes the fulfillment, but the effect they have had on us. Then overall, it is a practice that we should maintain and enhance, that before you present yourself to be voted for, especially as president, you must present promises, because they form the contract between you and the individual Ghanaian who went or intends to vote for you. And when that contract is executed on the day of election and you win, then you must also be sure that you are going to be accountable for the achievement of each and every one of them by and large. All right? So previously, where people may care less about these promises and even more seriously about whether or not they achieve, I think we are getting to the situation where we will not take people for granted. This area, we won't do their road, because whatever we do, even if we put gold on their road, they won't vote for us. And then those they vote for also come to power. Whether we do it or not, they will vote for us. And I'll give you the road to my own town as an example. To use Agunas Road to Achimoda, I mean, You just ask yourself.
It's a terrible road.
Terrible. I mean, it's near, and this is a major road, and I really do not see why. Is it because a certain party is identified with them, and whether or not the roads are constructed? The Northwest Road is huge for MPP, for example. That's not the case. It's close to your area, isn't it? So is it the case that those around that area, whether you do their road or not, they will vote for you, or whether you do it or not, they will not vote for you? So they lose out big time on these matters. So with this, the politicians are now going to sit up and know that now the radio stations are all over the place. The people will now be looking at whether, and you see, just to conclude, it's important to highlight what I call the soft development. I mean, the free exchanges and so on. But people also vote on what they see, the tangibles also. So once you are doing free education and so on, you must also realize that, I mean, the person is going to ask himself, has anything changed concerning my road or the hospital? And if you don't do the balance, you may do all the big soft things, the data policies that you are introducing, the paperless and so on. But some people also care more about the things they use their eyes to see and their fingers to touch.
Okay. All right. So I would remind listeners and viewers that the Christmas Made in Ghana Fair is currently underway at the Aviation Social Center. So for everything you need to buy for the upcoming Christmas, made in Ghana, made in Ghana rice, made in Ghana handbags, handicrafts, everything made in Ghana that you need for Christmas is on display at the Made in Ghana Fair at the Aviation Social Center. Don't forget that the main attraction for the day is the Jollof Wars. Right after the program, we are all heading there. The Jollof Wars. So we are having Team Credible, that is CNR and other news products, competing against Team Bombastic and Team Jollof Beyond A. That is CB, City Breakfast Show, and Citi Breakfast Daily. That's on TV. So all of these things and more are happening today and tomorrow at the Aviation Social Center. It's the Christmas Made in Ghana Fair. Lawyer Pon, finally,
so the works on about the cooking or the
cooking? Yes, the cooking of the jollof.
And not the eating.
No. The weapons are the cooking.
I'll go and have some. I can't cook.
It's the cooking, yes. So yeah.
So no, but I think I will rest on that.
You don't want to comment on the Afro
I would have thought that we'll use it, but if you want me to go into
just
it,
briefly.
I think I've read this one and I'm deeply satisfied that at least the introduction satisfies me. And how I think it should be done. This time they will use the percentages and not Ghanaians are dissatisfied that so and so, or the Ghanaians are satisfied that so and so. Of course, they say plurality of Ghanaians are undecided. And when you put the figures together, it's actually more than 50%. Those who have not decided to vote, those who are yet to take their decision, and those who are quite unsure. All right. I think that really reflects my expectation, and it is good because it is now up to the persons who are going to offer themselves for election, especially as president. And it may be worse even for the parliamentarians, because I think usually the president gets higher votes than all the votes of the members of parliament put together. At least Special President Mohammed's one shows quite a wide margin. So and this normally reflects the decision to vote for president and not so much even for members of parliament. So if this number, and if what I'm saying is right, are yet to decide which person to vote, of course, let's also agree that it's not everybody that has firmed his intention. President Kufuor, for example, may have expressed intention, but if he's still going to run on the ticket of MPP, that hasn't happened. So it's difficult.
When he started campaigning, the members, the recent regional tour, he was asking for 4 more years. Dr. Baumia,
but I'm saying that they are yet to go for primaries of any sort. So it is even difficult now to ask someone who they should vote for when the person has not even yet offered himself. I mean, Park Sidu may still come back. to offer himself, they'll decay, and so on. It is when all these people have offered themselves, and in fact the Electoral Commission has issued out the writ for the election, that is when people can even be very certain of whether to vote for this person or that person. As it is now, I'm not sure in respect of which or who has offered himself that these people said they are not very sure. So we need to factor that also in the analysis. If I don't know who is going to offer himself, how can I be very certain that I'll vote for him?
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So otherwise, it reflects...
Just one quick comment about Yao. Sorry, and this I'll shut up. I'll shut up.
And then after,
on the promise of electing the MMDCs, the actual promise really was oversee the direct election of MMDCs within 24 months of election into office to coincide with the next district assembly election in 2019. Oversee the direct election. It wasn't said to be partisan.
Yes.
If the NPP had focused on just this,
there wouldn't be any referendum.
That's why I made
That's
the
why
point
we are saying that
the
promise itself is clear. It's clear. But to the extent now that it was now said to be partisan, this then changed from the original promise.
Part of the contingency matters.
Exactly.
That you couldn't have
and that's the thing we said.
Let's move to the Honorable Ines Afsini now.
Let's
move to the Honorable Ines Afsini now. In Manifesto, 48.78% satisfactory score for the president administration for the past 3 years. Afrobarometer says 4 out of every 10 Ghanaians do not want to vote or anything of that sort. Does this in any way vindicate the NDC position that the Akufo-Addo administration so far has not performed?
This is a leading question, which we just...
Thank you so very much. And,
whether it's a leading question or not, you know where it's
a leading question.
And
answer for him.
No, he has to because I mean,
he's a fair-minded person.
Duke is my friend, so that's why he's
in my court.
It's good not lie.
It's cross-examination, so maybe he's putting it
very much for the opportunity to be part of this great panel this morning and to share my views on the issues as such.
Like your Fugu is fantastic.
Yes, it's from the north. I mean, you can get it from Yendi and probably Tabale.
But don't wear alone.
Okay, I understand. I think that Imani has done a great job. You see, everywhere that we have democratic elections, everywhere people are given a choice to win the mandate of the people to govern them, politicians make promises. Recently in the UK elections, it came out strongly that they should be mindful of promises, but because it could affect the economy of the country.
Yeah.
So everywhere they make promises. They make promises because people have difficulties and they want hope. And so politicians cash in on the hope. To give them hope, they give them promises. And so it is always important in an effort to consolidate our democracy to track the promises. And that's why we should commend Imani.
Yes.
I mean, so you don't just give promises and think that no one will hold you to the promises that you have given. I think Imani did a great attempt in assessing, put in a lot of energy in trying to assess the president, because even listening to...
No, the government.
The government. Article 58, the government is the president.
Is the president. So
now, so they, you see, and listening to you, I think that at some points you gave him marks for effort.
We did the same for you guys.
Well,
effort, because that's the nature of the analysis.
Those are the ones that are effort.
Yes.
The ones that are being fulfilled.
So we do the same thing.
220 for the effort. That's for 220.
The deputy minister was a lecturer.
Yeah.
My good friend Yao Po is a lecturer. lecturers and people who have opportunity to assess others sometimes give them marks for effort. So I'm not surprised.
Even the use of the pen.
Even the use of the pen.
Me and father, you bought pen.
Yeah, so you get them marks for effort. And to be honest with you, have been very, very charitable to the president.
Oh.
Very, very. In fact, people, many others, not having the benefit of scientific tracking and assessment, have given the president way lesser. I've seen somebody give him 11.5% in the fulfillment of his promises.
Which body that did the assessment?
I'm not saying
If it's somebody.
Oh, this is somebody.
Yes,
Not a, okay.
yes.
This is an individual assessment.
Yes, individual assessment, 11.5. And so generally, I think that what Imani has done is commendable.
Yeah.
It sits in neatly with what Afrobarometer has come up with. That it appears that the government is failing. Even though Imani says it's satisfactory. 50, I don't know how 48.5% can be satisfactory.
48.78.
48.
Almost, if you round it up, that would be 49.
How can that be satisfactory?
It's satisfactory. It could be in the lower bounds, but it's still
Yeah,
satisfactory.
so it's in the lower bounds. So to Imani it's satisfactory. I mean, if we are going to run this country on 48%, 48% pass mark, where will we go in?
Okay. All right.
But they still have one more year, so
There's room for improvement. You're being mischievous now.
So for me, I think that, yes, for the NDC, I mean, we were not surprised. To be honest with you, because when you look at the Afrobarometer report, which came out before Imani's assessment report, in all departments of the country, the MPP had performed disastrously in the Afrobarometer report. And so,
there is one which said that there's the level of trust in the president, even though has waned, is higher than that of the one on corruption, than what people have in the opposition political parties.
Oh, it's trust. It's trust part of the assessment.
Yes. That's the way it was accepted.
people need to trust you.
But you need to trust someone before you give the person your vote.
Well,
You can't vote for someone you don't trust.
people trust the
the
president. Okay. But what was his assessment of corruption?
Even though it has waned from 2017, people still trust him more than the opposition parties.
They trust him more than the opposition parties. Not to
All put together,
yes.
not just one.
But I'm just saying that
put together.
In fact, especially you and your party.
I know sometimes, you see, it's quite difficult to assess a president who gave a lot of hope, but who is not delivering on the promise.
Okay.
It's very difficult. And, as human beings, we always want to demonstrate some kind of fairness in appreciating the difficulties in which the president is against the promises he made. But can we exonerate him? That didn't he know that he will fall into this situation? Didn't he think that he had a capacity to deliver on the promises he was making? So yes, like I said, Imani, great assessment. But Imani, next time, review. I mean, I'm sure when you go back, you review your assessment. And what Yao Opoku, my good friend, has said, what are we delivering? He said we have delivered free senior high school. There are many other assessments on the implementation of the policy that is pointing to a failure.
For example.
So are we, for example, quality at the United Nations, UNESCO. So are we just assessing the implementation of the promise or the effectiveness of the implementation?
That's why he said that they didn't go into the implementation.
So you see,
so that going forward, they will look at that one.
Free HSS is implemented, but do we need to go further to see whether it's going to secure us the benefit in the American Constitution of liberty and prosperity? Probably not.
Okay.
Because there's a real fear. And even the Ghana Education Service and the Minister of Education appreciate this fear. Okay. That was why in a few months ago, they attempted to take the students through past questions.
Yes.
So that to increase their chances of passing. So we have a difficulty there. Now, we have this election of MMDCs. The promise was to elect MMDCs. The promise was never to make it partisan.
Yes.
The promise, there was an attempt to fulfill the promise. So Article 2431 was introduced in Parliament. Way before even the referendum amendment bill was brought. So why did the president withdraw it?
Yesterday he
You read-
explained
I
it.
thought you confused him. The ones that introduced the political party lines.
That was
Well, I thought that the
55.
president
That's
was
the allegation.
The assessment is on the promises of the president.
People misled him. She
thing-
go in
the-
for
the-
political
the-
party lines, and then you said no.
the hypocrisy was
That's
too
not
much.
what
The
you promised.
hypocrisy in that thing is too much.
But
You go to-
well,
you
you
go to
call
the-
it-
you
you may
go
not
to the
call it
grounds,
so.
you go to the
But
grounds,
Parliament
different
itself,
political parties
Parliament
are
itself.
actually,
No, yesterday Parliament
we are
was.
assessing-
Yesterday
we are
Parliament
we are
was.
viewing-
No, you brought this into it.
No,
Yesterday
no,
Parliament
no.
was haggling over whether to sit on Tuesday or not, which is the day for the referendum. Now, these elections are not being conducted on partisan basis. Why do you need partisan MPs to go and mobilize for people to go and vote?
No.
Even though the referendum has been set
Duke,
aside.
you are
I
a
had
reporter.
I had the
You are a
NBC did
reporter
the
from
screening
Parliament.
for their
3 weeks ago, Parliament had taken a decision.
They took that decision because the referendum was on the table.
Oh, so
I'm-
you
I'm-
will let me talk.
Well, they
We
still
all
have a
witnessed what,
duty
we
to-
all witnessed what
they still have
happened
a
on the
duty
floor.
to go to the
Yes,
constitution.
of course,
Okay,
of course, to
anyway,
vote, yes.
we
To
have
vote,
two
yes.
weeks ago,
Anyway.
Parliament
To vote,
took a
yes.
decision to reserve Monday the
And Tuesday.
16th and Tuesday the 17th as non-sitting days
Mm-hmm.
for members of Parliament to go back to their constituencies and vote.
Not just vote, but for mobilization. That was also
No.
mentioned.
You go to the house, you don't see mobilization.
It was mentioned on the floor.
Another word is ways and means.
Ways and means. Now, but when the referendum was cancelled, there was no longer the need.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the Tuesday to go and vote, and because members of Parliament are coming from afar,
Yes,
Yeah, they have to.
they have to go. So it's not as if members of Parliament are, by their action, declaring Tuesday a holiday. Parliament will be, parliamentary service will be working, but members of Parliament will have to travel to vote. So the president has said, "I'm going to elect within 24 months." In the first place, the bill was introduced in Parliament more than 24 months after the president had been in office. So that's the effort. You see.
Maybe
It
the
was
day
more
of
than
planning.
24.
The day of planning
There was-
is different
but
from
there
the
was
day of
24
battle.
months.
Yes, within 24 months. But the bill was introduced in Parliament in May, 20th May 2019. That was the day the amendment referendum was
Yeah.
introduced in
Yeah.
Parliament.
Yeah.
So more than 2 years after,
But so in terms of the timeline, it's been missed.
it's been missed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and in terms of the real promise itself, it was to elect, not on non-partisan. And Article 243 was to address that. So why will you withdraw? You should give him 0 manners. There.
Okay. On that note, let me move to Sydney. Sydney, what you have the last word. You have the last word on this issue. Afrobarometer, and then Manifesto. 48.78% overall assessment of the president's performance.
Actually, progress report.
Progress
It's not.
progress.
It's progress because the manifesto is still in.
Okay. So the final assessment will be next year when
Yeah, executing
it is just
it.
being
Yeah.
presented
We
to
are
the
executing
voters.
it.
Sydney.
They will give you 0 manners or manners 0.
Minus zero.
What kind
No,
of
0 manners.
And by the way, we should be
kind of
careful
money
as
is
well.
that?
It's not. It's
Zero
not
itself is
48%
it's
over
nothing.
100.
It's not a,
You see, it's of the promises. We should be cautious as well. It's not 48.7%. It's over 100. It's the level of what's it called? The
Output.
That's what we are
So
measuring.
is it inclusive of what has been achieved?
Yes.
What
Exactly.
is being achieved?
Exactly.
And what has not been
So the
done.
totality of it.
Exactly. That's what
Is
I
it
said. It's 510,
48%?
48.78%.
Okay, so it's
Progress.
Not. So then we should have also
Well, the
known
president even
what
assessed
has
himself.
been achieved.
But the
the
president
percentage of what
assessed
has been
himself.
achieved.
72%.
If you want
The
to
president
just look at
assessed himself.
only what has been achieved, it's
And gave himself
27%.
72.
20.
7%.
Huh?
Wow.
So
So how can you be the
And that's
examiner
why
in
we
the
don't
back
want
and
to
say,
get
No,
into
but
just
no, but this is
Well,
not.
yeah, one more
This,
year.
he mentioned that these are marks
One
based.
more
Don't
year.
forget that this government has a whole Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation.
So
And he mentioned it. He mentioned
don't
it.
worry,
He mentioned it when he was coming for his budget.
Even
What is his budget this year?
even beyond that, Industrial has been a student before. He will write exams and he will go telling himself, "I have done very well."
Yes.
Well, why?
I say I've done very well, but I never back myself. I never grade myself.
Never, don't
The lecturers have the.
Well, if you have the marking scheme,
The lecturers have the markings, which is an
And they have to
assessment of
apply
the
the
president's.
marking
Oh, you could, you could
But
actually,
do you know why we have
you
mirrors?
could actually do
Do you know
that.
why we have mirrors?
Self-assessment.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could actually do
Because
that.
you cannot see yourself.
Good. So if the president,
So you
if the
allow people
president
to
says-
assess you.
if the
The
president
mirror
says
is your own
well,
mirror.
They are taking your time.
Sorry, go on.
I'm surprised you're allowing them. This is
it's
uncharacteristic.
He's
Yes.
enjoying it.
This is highly
The
uncharacteristic.
humor has something.
Then you don't know me well. I'm very much a gentleman when it comes to issues like this.
You know, the whole studio is up with laughter. The cameramen and
are
the
my
whole
friends.
crew. They don't believe what you are saying.
These are my friends, my cameraman friends.
Yeah, they don't believe what
Look.
you are saying.
Everybody's praising Imani.
Yeah.
They've done a fantastic job. It's an excellent rendition. I have had conversations with Franklin about this manifesto thing. I don't see where it is taking us with this report. I don't agree totally with his marking scheme, if I should put it that way.
Okay.
And we have spoken about it several times when it has come out and have made suggestions to the way we are going. You see, I don't see that a manifesto is of anything significant in the society.
Really?
Totally. I don't like making too much reference to the more developed economies. But just recently with the British voting, the manifesto that they produced was the smallest manifesto ever produced by a political party.
It was virtually a one item election.
Yeah, election.
Brexit.
And besides, that's a developed economy too. So
You see, so when you compare to that, it's not fair. But it just tells you how little emphasis they want to place on a manifesto promise. Because at the end of the day, you see, listening to the conversation as it was going, there are qualitative issues involved. And we've tried to quantify some of those emotive issues and to put it on the table. Question, or should I say, the mischief that UNICEF is trying to produce. That even if you take SHS, okay, the quality has not been produced, but so therefore you grade them -0.
Yeah.
As you go forward, mischievous, but a valid
That's what
point.
they're saying.
Because with every project, with every program, everybody has a subjective view as to whether that thing has been implemented properly or not. You can go back and reflect on the 200 SHS schools that was promised by the NDC and say, okay, they only did 23. So how much of a failure should you give them? Maybe you should mark them -0 and never to recover again.
The examiner's comment.
So it's like you should be able to carry the negative scores forward. So if ever they get a second chance, then they have to make up for all that deficit before they come to a point where we can start grading. But these are issues that you can laugh about and you can make fun of. I prefer to read and to see the budget assessment, the annual budget assessment that Imani, I think you've done it once or twice.
You see, the conversation about qualitative and quantitative is a given. This exercise was an output-based one. You see, the moment you get into the quantitative, then there are issues about whether you believe that 6.3% GDP growth rate by 2020 is enough to jumpstart this economy.
Exactly.
Somebody would disagree with you. Then those assessments are done annually. If I will do annual budget assessment, the OCD is saying it's useful. But the import of this exercise, as it has always been, was this is what you said you do, this is what you deliver. Even the UK election you referred to, it was clear. Corbyn was able to elevate the discourse of social issues, the NHIS issue, and became a topical issue. But because the Brexit issue was much more important, and he wasn't clear what he was going to do, all the nice things he said in his manifesto, people didn't care.
But even
he had an integrity deficit.
But even above that, if you remember, they also tried to elevate the integrity of Boris Johnson
Yes.
as a political
Yeah.
discussion
Those
issue
are the
that he
anti-Semitic
wasn't
comments.
trustworthy.
Yeah.
So you see, those things are critical, and we need to ask ourselves as we go forward, what are the critical development things
Sure.
that we want to achieve in order to be able to get the welfare of the people, not the economy. Forget about the economy working. The welfare of the people is the important thing. At the end of the day, do we have employment for the youth? Do we have food in the markets when we go there? Are we able to move around affordably instead of having to pay exorbitant fuel prices?
True.
And you can come up with your criteria, your list of things that you think should be achieved. And I think I think it's Alex who said that. End of the day, what are the critical things that need to be done in order for us to feel the impact of success within our economy? So somewhere along the line, I want to see the flagship issues, all right, which are the ones that are sold on the back of the manifesto in order for people to vote for us. Okay, where one party is saying one district, one factory, and the other party is saying we'll be building hospitals.
Okay.
Let me jump in quickly. I'm sorry to worry your thought. You see, when we did the critical analysis of the manifestos before the elections, what Sydney is asking for was done. So, for instance, the 1D, 1F, we then said, okay, the value of each district in this country was roughly about $1.5 billion anyway. So, when you are going to do something like this, have you taken into consideration the value chain analysis? What are the triggers? So you may not necessarily put a factory in every district, and that you may want to consolidate, agglomerate, so that you create
Zone the country according to some lines.
That's what Citi is asking for, which is useful, which must be done,
and which I think reflects the focus of where the government is taking
That's true.
the country. You see, right now, if you've been tracking it, because I've been looking at it quite cleanly, government started talking about 181 factories completed, or at least in various stages of completion now, under 1D.
About 50 completed and working. Yesterday, the president had a list, which has subsequently been released. We have a copy.
Have we looked at the list carefully?
So, yeah, we need to look at
We still
yeah,
speak
that,
Some of the factories on the list are factories which were existing before.
yeah, but that is the point.
That's the point.
You see, that is the point. The point is, if all of those factories are up and running and working, you can expect that there will be some employment. At which level of employment, I don't know. Whether it will be youthful employment, or whether it will be experienced employment, or whether it will be employment for the future. But there will be some measure of progress. All right? The key things that I am absolutely convinced of that we need to do is look at all these various districts. What is the economic indicator that we need to use in order to be able to judge progress within a district? You might say, let's do GDP, which I disagree with, because I don't see the purpose of GDP. But if that is what we have as an economic indicator now, and we are going to be able to get commonality across the districts and use that to gauge district development, you see, and this is where I think we miss a boat. Because at the end of the day, if you are going to use districts as development indicators to make progress, then it is absolutely imperative that we vote for MMDCEs. You see, it becomes a sine qua non. We must vote for MMDCEs in order for us to be able to pick up the district by district development as we go forward. Now, whether you do it by political partisanship or not is absolutely fundamental to how the projects are going to be executed. So that when you talk about a road from Agona Straight route to Oda, and it's a bad road, it shouldn't be. It should not be a bad road. You see, because everybody agrees that it's a fundamentally important road that must be fixed. And you are asking the question, why isn't it fixed? What is the reason? All right? So, when you take all of this that we are doing and you take the Imani report, and we are evaluating a country's progress, which is where the media is pushing it. All right, but that is not where Imani is pushing it. Okay, I don't think that Imani's through this, and if Imani is here, Imani can tell us. Imani's purpose is not to evaluate the government based on its promises of achievement and saying that that's economic progress or not. Okay, that is more interesting for the media. That this report should be used as a gauge of government's progress, and of course it fuels into the opposition's rhetoric. But bottom line at the end of the day, when you take somebody based on their promise, and you say you promised to love me, you promised to cherish me, you promised to be beside me.
These are emotional promises. No, you promised to give me a bowl. You're giving me a calabash. These are tangible. But you have emotional promises.
You can eat from both anyway.
Absolutely.
And drink from both.
If I give you a China, if I promise you a China bowl, and I give you a calabash, I'm doing you better because I'm giving you something that is locally produced, it's made in Ghana.
But did you know that it was made in Ghana?
When I made the promise, I thought you would like China bowl. But now, with the way things are going, everybody shouting made in Ghana, made in Ghana.
The contingency aspect.
I like that.
I give you a calabash because the calabash reflects the way we are going now. So, fine, okay, interesting. But I think that we should not misdirect the purpose of the Imani report.
Which we were quite emphatic about.
Okay, so we will take a break here. Afrobarometer, just a minute.
Should I do Afrobarometer?
Yeah, a minute, yes.
I think that CDD have got this thing wrong.
Really?
I think they've got it wrong. Not from the survey. The survey is a reflection of the questions they asked. But I think that looking at it as we have gone forward, to take a sample of 2,400, okay, across the whole of Ghana, and you are talking to maybe, I would say 7-8 million people is your sample size. At the end of the day, that's your pool. Because if you take out the 15-year-olds and below, who really I don't think will be able to contribute critically to a survey of this sort, and you are left with about 8 million people, to which you should. My statistics are simple: that 60-65% of the population in this country are children. So the rest of it that you are looking at, the 30-35%. Out of the 30 million, that is what you are dealing with. And it's about 9 million, I'm saying about 7-8 million. That's the population size you have. And to take 2,400 out of that, across the whole country, do a survey, and then extrapolate the answers of that 2,400. One, I think the sample size is too small. I think statistically, I'll be hard pushed if I was doing this to be able to project an extrapolated view based on that sample of the population of the country.
Okay.
Then, sure.
No, we have to take a break.
You want to take a break? Just hear this one. You know, I'm more worried though, because this is an offline survey. Online surveys themselves are mimicking some of these results, and I'm worried. Let me just read one to you. This was done by Bright, one of my vice presidents. As a Ghanaian voter, do you see the opposition NDC as a credible alternative to the ruling party?
That's his question.
Yeah, that's the question. This is a sample size of, these were 4,638 votes. Those who said yes, I'm voting NDC were 36.3%. No, I'm voting MPP is 25.2%. No, I'm not voting, 21%. Not yet. Want to hear more, 17.6%. So if you combine 17.6 with 21, that's close to
Afrobarometer.
Yes, almost close to Afrobarometer.
Which is fine. Which is fine at this time of the year.
All right.
At this time of the year, the question we ask ourselves is: Are people really thinking? You know,
and the president said the final poll is actually on the
17th of November. On that note, we'll take a break here. When we come back, there are some other issues that we'll be discussing. This is the big issue on Citi TV and Citi FM. Stay with us. You're welcome back. This is The Big Issue right here on Citi TV. I'm Duke Mensah Opoku, sitting in for a regular host, Godfred Akoto. Boafo, I still have in studio the Honorable Alexander Aban, Deputy Minister of Health. I have Yaopon, private legal practitioner, Inu Safseni, lawyer, NDC Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Franklin Kujo, Mani Africa, and Sini Kesley Hayford, who is the financial analyst and a member of Occupy Ghana. Some of your comments quickly before we move to the other issues up for discussion. Rocky from Asesewa, I think the expectations given to the MPP prior to the 2016 elections based on their manifesto were very huge, especially when the economy was in a shambolic state as of that time. But after the MPP won, their promised delivery has been nothing to write home about. I wonder why some members of the MPP fraternity refuse to agree with the outcome of the Afrobarometer survey. I think they must back up, otherwise they will cry ma in the 2020 election. Peter Rocky from Asesewa. Munkaila Jones ADR from Kerry. Everything shows clearly that the MPP led by President Akufo-Addo has come for good. That's why the Afrobarometer goes in our favor. Well, because most Ghanaians are interested in NDC running mate, their manifesto and policy direction, than seeking to always attack President Akufo-Addo's policies. Fear NDC and save your life.
I'll never understand humanity anymore.
Fear
People see the same
and
thing.
save your life.
And then it's but it's a different view altogether.
Well, that is from Munkaila. Abdul Basit Zongo Pania Kumasi says, good morning. The arrears of teachers from 2012 to 2016 Mahama Wahala to teachers will be settled by, okay, well, I think the teachers have called off theirs. Well, they've been compelled to go back by an NLC order. Yeah. All right, so quick reminder that the Made in Ghana Fair, the Christmas Made in Ghana Fair, is currently underway at the Aviation Social Center. Key highlights, the Jollof Wars amongst the 4 teams that will be competing. But for every other thing you need, from Ghana Rice, as the president has instructed from next year, all state institutions have to purchase Ghana Rice and Ghana produce. So we are starting that with this Made in Ghana, Christmas Made in Ghana Fair. Everything you need, made in Ghana. Everything, from groceries to jollof, everything from 1 to 4. Everything you need is at Aviation Social Center. It's the Christmas Made in Ghana Fair. Don't forget the highlight is the Jollof Wars.
You should have brought the Jollof here.
What?
He didn't give us Jollof.
What has taken us so long to arrive at this point? Haven't we seen for all these decades that the policy of eating what you grow and growing what you can
is what will take us far.
Is what will take us forward. I can't. These politicians. These politicians. I don't get you.
Okay. Let's
started long before Akufo-Addo, long before Mama, long before Mills.
Yes.
I remember as a member of the trade committee, President Akufo had taken a decision. I don't know whether you were reporting from Parliament, and we imposed taxes. You remember? He never signed the bill.
Kufo never signed the bill.
But when it was approved, he didn't sign it. Okay, all right.
But why didn't you guys sign it?
There are a lot of issues when it comes to for now, that is being implemented. But let's come to 5 political parties.
You can't veto it.
I support Made in Ghana.
But the president has given
a directive.
He's given a fiat that from 1st January.
What fiat?
We will be in this country to monitor if it will be followed or not.
Work.
Okay, all right. So 5 political parties this week worked out of a meeting by the Electoral Commission, the IPAC meeting. Their concern is that the Electoral Commission had clandestinely brought in someone to exhibit or demonstrate to them how a new biometric voters register was going to work when there had not been exhaustive consultations on it. Why did the NDC champion this cause to work out with 4 other political parties?
First of all, we must understand that before any meeting is called, there must be a what?
Agenda.
So was compilation of a new voter register, an agenda on the Electoral Commission's meeting.
Tell us.
Where it was not. I mean, I've got the distance here. It was not an agenda on the meeting. So nobody takes kindly to the issue of being
ambushed
with such an important matter.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Secondly, when the party got there, we saw the Director General of the National Communications Authority. The the director, I'm not even interested in his name. The Director General of the National Communications Authority, a public institution paid through the Consolidated Fund, sitting in the meeting and being introduced as a representative of the MPP. Now, so when you are confronted with these issues, what do? You are not told that you are going to discuss the compilation of a voters register. You go and see the Director General of a public institution of NCA sitting there and being introduced. And you know that the meeting was to discuss issues other than compilation. The Electoral Commission was saying that, look, we are going to try to ride on the platform of the telecoms. So Voda, MTN, and Glo. And who is the regulator of the telecoms? NCN. The Director General, who will be a key figure in ensuring that the platform that the EC needs to collect results is being introduced as an MPP representative at the meeting. I mean, and you expected us to sit there.
The underlying this story is a certain sense of mistrust.
Yes.
And
It's just unfortunate
the
that
director of IT for NDC has had cause this week to indicate that, I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
No, they put the question to him that, so when he saw him, he became fearful, he was afraid and walked out. That was his response.
There is nothing
But
he
we
doesn't
are talking
have.
about good governance. You see, and that's going to be my next frontier when I leave Parliament. Good governance is founded on many things, including trust.
Yeah, that's true.
Why will the Director General of a public institution, and you see, that's why, and I had my, you see, he started training as a priest, so I have deep respect and reverence
and
for him.
myself also.
And yourself also. So I don't want...
And Franklin also, or Franklin abandoned it.
No, only
Never-
attended
seminary, but it did not-
seminaries.
But you also
Because
abandoned
I'm
it.
Catholic. No, I never wanted to be
Be
a priest.
Ah,
Even though now this Pope, even though he's leftist, if he tries to change it so that married persons can
now
become
become
priests.
priest.
You
Okay.
consider it.
Yeah, but I'll be an economic priest.
Okay,
So you see,
It's no
you see, and
achievement.
this is
Even
in
me.
Sydney.
Even me, I was going to be a priest. Even
Oh,
Yeah, you see.
me. I was going to be an Anglican priest.
Okay.
Even me.
Yeah, that's good. Even you. You are so... This man is a certified sinner.
Put it on my epitaph for my grave. He never believed.
Even me. Now, so you see, he says that NDC are hypocrites. Frankly, you recall in the period of the Rawlings era and the argument that we needed to separate the state government from political parties.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
How possible?
Yes. Oh, you have forgotten.
That's always been there.
And who were leading the charge?
Well,
The NPP.
So more or less the separation of powers
Yes.
as well.
So,
Which is one of the promises.
Which
in
is
the
one of the
manifesto.
promises, which is part of good governance issues. So you hold political parties accountable. Because you see...
But with the kind of politics we practice,
Please,
because
we can do
the party backs the government, the
we
party
can do
gives
it.
birth to
We
the
can
government.
do it. So you choose. It's an election. If you want to be a political party activist, you go to the party headquarters and work from there. But you don't say that we should pay you for state resources and then you will be...
A clear example is your colleague, Yabo Abiyasamoah. He's a member of parliament. He's director of communications for the party.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
It will be difficult to do.
Your Asamoah will defend even the withdrawal of the referendum.
Yes.
The referendum bill.
no, but I think
Because
the
the party
difference is that
position-
he was elected
Yes.
on the ticket of a political party. But the gentleman he's referring to,
It's not an elected official.
he's a public officer.
All right,
not the
that's
political.
fair enough.
He's
No,
trying to
so-
Who is this, by the way?
the
The
NC.
Director
NC
General of...
General.
That's the difference.
But
So-
why are we discussing him?
Because...
They were,
I'm trying to...
That was one of the reasons why they walked out.
I'm trying to explain why we walked out.
You see him at the
And I'm saying that, look, first of all, compilation of a new voters register was not on the agenda.
Okay,
When we
so
use-
In spite
when
of
we
the
use
20, but there was a 21-man advisory board that they
But what was that advisory board for?
made up of
You see, I
Christians.
always say, who are the stakeholders? You see, even that advisory board, even yesterday I asked the Electoral Commission.
I also
And
was under
in this
special
country-
budget
In this country, we do everything on the opposite side. You have constituted a 21-member group. None of them will stand elections. None of them will care the hoot if who wins an election.
they'll pray.
They will only pray for you. None of them.
But they have
none
the-
of them have stake.
They have the clout, they have
They
the
have-
stature,
they have
they have
no
what
stake.
it, they have
None
what
of
it
them
takes.
have in-
They have what
what
it takes.
elections.
What exactly do they
No, what
have
will they
in
do?
elections?
Because you see the point.
What would they do?
Because
These
I
are,
didn't
these
know-
are, these
I
are
didn't know-
eminent
What
members
would
of the
they do with
society.
elections?
What we do that sometimes we dilute.
Yeah, because
That-
you see,
dilute
the
our
importance of
functions.
this.
our functions.
Because you say you are.
I don't know
you are
what
not
that
to be
21
the subject
list
of
there.
any
Control direction.
interference
I haven't
and
bothered-
control.
I haven't
And
bothered
then you
to
go and
listen.
set up committees.
All right.
So,
So wrap up with the
disaster.
question. What would the EC do to get the NDC and the other political parties back to the table?
you see,
They should
The
use the
IPAC
21-member.
But they are
They are opposed to the formation. President
what-
Mahama
they
had
are
cause to
found
recently say that was unnecessary.
So the 21-member council is replacing the Peace Council.
No, they
I
are
don't
not.
even know.
It's an extra layer of, you know.
What?
Would they be paid?
Of course, they will have some allowances. And
Oh.
They can meet. That I can't say.
They'll
for
get
record,
jollof
but
rice at least.
based on
And they'll
based
drink
on how
tea
things
when
happen
they
in this
meet.
country, of course.
So what I'm saying is that now you have political parties. And you know, I've always argued that the creation of IPAC has been a very important innovation
Yeah.
in electoral system management in Africa.
Some have even said it should be.
It's the reason why we've held our peace together.
Some have
actually.
said that
These are
it
the
should be
stakeholders.
should be institutionalized. I
These
mean,
are the stakeholders,
across
and you
the
bring
country.
them to the table, then they air their concerns and grievances. Even though the electoral commission is not subject to the control and direction of anybody, you take it on board and you are sure that you are working to meet their reasonable and legitimate expectations, that you carry out your work in a credible
But that's
manner.
where sometimes too there's confusion.
But you
Because
guys have
cannot
used
one
it.
time say
But you
that
guys have used it as a political weapon.
Well,
Both
as
of you, NPP.
all
and
the
NDC.
political parties. It
You
depends
use it
on
as a
who
political
is
weapon.
depends on who is in government and who is in opposition.
You threaten to boycott. You threaten to boycott IPAC when you have issues that you disagree with.
Yes, so
it's become a political
that
weapon.
issue
So-
that comes on the table, then you come.
Like we are discussing.
Threatening to boycott is one of the strategies of getting your issue on the table.
To what extent
that is
would
not
that
the
not
purpose of
also
IPAC.
interfere with the performance of
Well,
the
I think
finances
the
of
point.
electoral
I think the
Yes,
point.
so-
I
The
think
point
I
I'm
think the
making
point
is
Honorable is making is that because it's a body that has been duly recognized. If you are calling a meeting of sorts and you don't have a clear agenda, and then all of a sudden
You spring a
surprise,
They are
some
very-
of
they
them
are
will
very
have
right.
opportunity to.
other matters.
But for a matter that is
one of the
but
other
for a
matters.
matter that
What
is
was the
here,
main issue?
as
The
a
main issue is
biometric.
about what?
so-
The registration.
Well,
Can we
yes, no,
listen
we
to
didn't
any
sit
other
down to
matters?
listen to the registration. But yesterday, the electoral commission came to us in Parliament,
The special budget committee.
and we looked at it. And to be honest with you, indeed, that's why you recall, Alex, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I stood up in Parliament and said that it was important for electoral commission and the commissioners to meet Parliament.
Yes. This is a
When they came and we met, even at the special budget committee, one member of Parliament told them, okay, you're going to compile a new register, biometrics. Biometrics of persons don't change. That's why we call them biometrics.
It's a needless exercise.
They don't change.
Seriously.
So why do you
I don't
start
see
the
the
process
All over again.
Why will you?
You only
visit
update.
data.
And you only update.
national
so now,
identification
so you
too
have
is
gotten
also
all
doing
these
it.
things.
So why don't you wait and tap?
So you have gotten
From
the
the-
biometric
from the
data
21-man
of all the
commi-
voters
the
who have
21-man
presently
delegation needs
existed.
to
Why
tell-
are they?
Advise them.
Why? And you want to add facial recognition.
Hey,
It will give you no. So
are we in
okay,
China?
now I'm just trying to explain. So if you want a register to compare a register, you don't even need to make it an issue. You're going to upgrade
The register.
your
Biometrics.
register. So it's not a compilation. It's not a registration. Upgrade. So people go there. You want to add more features. So
are we adding facial recognition?
recognition. So you have your biometrics,
Hey.
and then
Yeah.
you go there. They pull out your.
I didn't know that
your
people wear
information
masks
and just
during
upgrade their system by adding your facial.
Look, this is a
what-
procurement
what's the-
opportunity. Come on.
Anyway,
What type of
honorable-
facial
honorable-
recognition? I don't understand this.
So no, you see, that's what we.
I
don't
didn't know
understand.
people wear masks when they are going to vote.
Well, they want facial recognition.
Okay.
So
see-
what I'm
you see,
saying is that
this
is- so
so
finally.
we said, so why do you want to do a new register? This just say I want to upgrade by adding more features will give you the opportunity to even clean the register, because those who don't come, their
Means
names
they're
are
not interested.
are taken off. No, they don't come. I mean, you are doing a national exercise. So those who don't come will give you an indication of the
Whether
real
they are ghosts
ghosts
or
or
they
not.
are
Yeah.
existing.
Yeah, because biometrics that are collected in the first
It's the
place.
fact that has been collected.
Look,
And you're
this-
going back to do it's just because of money.
This
In
is
fact,
such-
you
this
know
is
that
such-
the bill they are presented to government
How much?
1.9 billion.
Embassy.
Billion or million?
Billion.
Ghana cedis.
Yes. And
For-
the government
For the
has
new
fixed-
register.
And the, no,
government has
they are
whole-
operations for the year, for 2020. 1.9 billion.
That's
And
the estimate that came to the committee.
That's for EC.
wait, that's for EC alone. And the government has been able to provide 1.06 billion.
Provided already or
Already.
estimated.
No, provided.
See,
For
elections
next
are
year.
becoming too expensive.
Approved.
And at the NDC, I think it
And
was
then-
1.2
and then-
billion.
Well, it was
And then
1.2
they
billion
reduced
last
it
the
to
last time
1.2
out.
billion.
Yes,
And they reduced
and
it
the
to
government gave
800.
them 800 and they were
800,
supposed to
yeah.
find the deficit of the
let-
400.
They are talking to our people. Now,
Is
they
it
are not
okay?
satisfied with the 1.06. They still want the additional 850 million.
For what?
Because they want to compile a new register biometric.
And
And we say
access.
that our biometric details are already with you.
They should tap onto national identification. Let's
What,
save some
what,
money.
you don't even need national identification.
No, well, for
We
the
have
additional-
our biometric
just be
information
upgraded.
already with the EC.
Okay, all right. Let me come to Honorable Aban now. Does the position not make sense?
You see, this is sorry.
Because
see,
people don't-
this is-
that's
this
why
is-
they
this
want-
is this is why we keep knocking on this door and say we just need one single identification system.
That's it.
You don't want to do
That
all
is it.
this. The 1 billion,
Billion.
the amount of education material that you can float into the system
Yeah,
with 1.8
1.9
billion is incredible. So all of this that we're doing, look, you know,
can
unfortunately,
procure-
unfortunately for me, at the end of the day, when all these issues start coming up, I blame you parliamentarians.
Oh.
You parliamentarians just don't have that control and that
partisanship.
authority.
Call the Electoral Commission to just come and meet us and tell us the steps. Because people's names were even deleted from the register. Some
Yeah, there was a
electoral
yes,
areas
yes,
there was a
called
court
the
issue
Electoral
that
Commission to
was
come and brief us
deleted.
because we are
So why
representative
have
and
you? So
because
why
of
have you
partisanship.
made it? Why have you made it
But
a
elsewhere,
partisan? Why
the
have
committees
you,
are
why
so
have you made it a
powerful.
partisan
I don't
issue?
know.
How can a committee
I don't know.
invite even a government official and he will refuse to?
Oh, I said you were
Because
there
of
in
the way
Parliament.
you do
Yes.
your things here
And then
also.
when I finished, the speaker said yes.
It's important.
That time we had referendum. We had difficulties with the referendum.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was happening.
Even the voter exhibition
Even the
exercise.
voters, we had
Yeah.
difficulties. Let him come and tell us the state of preparedness for the referendum and the this assembly elections.
This
No.
is
People are more fearful about committees
three
of
minority
parliament
MPs.
than even
the
Yes,
US.
they've been
The
on this
US.
case.
Let
Honorable
them invite
Nusat,
you and
Honorable
refuse.
Muntaka, and then
Oh.
minority leader himself
Yes.
have been on this
Yes.
for the past 2 months in Parliament. Almost every Friday, raising
Yes,
the
we
issue.
raise the issue. No
EC to
problem.
come and face Parliament. Honorable Aban, your comments on this issue?
Thank you very much. I think I have to isolate a few of the issues and deal with them.
Yeah.
The first thing is that, we did not get that as an agenda item.
Yes.
So we decided to leave. I think
Any other matter.
that one, it is below the belt.
Why
Really?
the belt?
Take your time. Take your time.
The agenda informs the kind of preparation you make before you go for the
You
Don't
think I will
worry.
just go and sit down
Don't
there and
worry.
be talking to us what we will
Don't
do?
worry. Don't worry. Let me state my point. You see, as we discuss, we must weigh it against the constitutional imperatives that we have
Okay.
and the independence of the EC. But like I used the phrase this morning, whatever they are doing is just like maid servants or handmaids to serve a bigger purpose. And that bigger purpose is to give credible elections which would make all political parties in that system agree to their victory or to their loss. Because if they don't do their things well, you can see the fallout can be very chaotic, right? So even though they have that independence as contained in our constitution, there is the need that whatever they are doing is so transparent that the victor would be very happy and feel that, yes, he has actually won a credible election.
Yeah.
And the vanquished will also go and lick its wounds quietly, peacefully, believing that he has genuinely lost. Right? And that's why, for me, the existence of IPAC and the constant or continual meetings to know all the steps being taken by EC is very important. Now, you go there because EC has that kind of independence, as I've already enunciated. You go there and they say that, oh, this and this and this and this is what you're going to do, right? All these beautiful suggestions that my learned friend is making here, he could still have been there to state it, right?
You didn't have to leave to
EC are not seeking their permission.
No,
For your information.
yes.
He had taken a step to engage political parties. Where on a very sound footing.
You see,
that these suggestions will come. But if, like you have started, they are independent, they can go ahead. So repeating mistakes, Obi may not said it. Repeating mistakes has never been considered as experience.
Yeah, but let me go on. Let me go on.
Repeating the mistake.
The second issue that he raised, very, very legitimate, right? That for as long as you have been appointed
as the NCA boss,
as NCA boss, you are working for the whole country, right? So you may then have to shelve your own political leanings and colors when it comes to certain things, okay? Because, like you said, if we are going to use the telcos, and you are also the person regulating the telcos, the question is there the possibility that because you sit at the apex and you are the one regulating it, is there a possibility that you could use that influence to maybe thwart the decision or the collective decision of the people?
I think everyone can just.
Okay.
I think his
So
presence. His presence may have been required because of where he is, but to be introduced
as a
representative,
especially when he was, especially when he's famed to have put together the election collation software for the MPP in 2016.
Yes.
It is in that sense that I'm speaking.
Yes, I'm
You
just
see,
adding to it.
You see, these are the things I don't get. In the first place, who was it who even suggested that this man be put there as a representative of the MPP in the first place?
Yes.
And then secondly, when he was told to go and represent the NPP at a forum like that, where is his common sense and his sense of direction and his sense of conflict that he didn't even object and say, why should I be put in a place? I don't understand.
Okay, but I wanted to understand. Is this because he was there because there's some aspect of the election that had to do with telcos?
That's what I'm saying. That shouldn't have been
Even if that be the case,
the system will in a way involve the use of infrastructure from the
government. He is the Director General of NCA. This is going to be run on the platform of telcos. And since he is coming here as the regulator,
then that will be understood.
Clear contract.
So for as long as he was introduced as representative of the MPP,
but you had the director of elections.
I think that was in bad taste.
Yeah.
We must not run away from this because you see, in the final analysis, whatever we are doing,
then it sends people going all directions that they are vested interests.
It's a conflict. I mean, he cannot even go and put himself there as somebody who's coming to be objective.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's what would have actually been the meat for saying that we are going out.
I see.
Not the agenda.
That's the thrust of my argument.
That he could have even decided to leave,
yeah.
So that maybe even if
avoid the conflict.
Yes, Sydney is right.
Okay.
Where was his common sense?
Absolutely.
Please.
Actually,
not
who
only
actually the person who suggested that he should be there in the first place?
Common sense.
Occasion, I'll buy you more fruit.
So please, let me just land. But I don't think that all is lost.
Yeah.
I believe that EC should put its house in order, re-engage the political parties very well.
All right.
Okay, and then let's get to a point where there's that trust, because there's nothing more disheartening than going into a contest, knowing very well that the referee is actually wearing the jersey of the opposing party.
Let's move to the other. Let's move to the other.
I needed to make a statement. Just a quick one.
I thought we had an agreement.
Just a quick one.
Just a quick one. Parliament. It was very good. That's why I'm able to speak on these matters. That's why I've always believed that we ought to have brought the electoral commissioner and the office staff to Parliament.
All right, it's not too late. Parliament still has a few more days. Okay, so Franklin, but I must say that a lawyer, your opponent, will be taking leave of us very soon. Yes, so if you have just brief comments, that yes, has other social engagement. So
why? The person is dead. What are you going to do?
His contributions.
Bury him.
Sydney,
You see, this is the problem with this country. Every important conversation, every important strategy, every important decision can be interrupted by funeral.
Why is that interrupted?
It's part of our culture.
Here you are giving good input into a conversation that we're trying to do.
Please.
We have less than 30 minutes to go.
Okay,
And you want to abandon the whole input and go and bury somebody. The person is already
I'm
gone.
amazed.
They have to be here to
If
spread the
indeed-
news. I'll be talking to them about important matters.
If indeed it's a
Stay.
consideration.
That's what we need. You need to give us your brain.
I will see you
so we
for
can do our
false
analysis.
If indeed
you are
it's
going
the
to go and do
for
funeral.
false imprisonment.
If indeed is the consideration of the EC that we add another layer of verification, which is facial recognition, then they are wasting everybody's time.
They're wasting our money. They're wasting our
money.
time.
They should
It's
not
not
get
necessary.
a dime for that additional feature. We are not in China.
Oh, definitely.
Nobody is going to do
400
stuff.
and something million for that.
Why?
Okay.
Why do you
For
need
the
facial
population
recognition? People wear masks these days.
to vote. Okay, Yao.
Yes. Oh, well, I mean,
Final comments.
I also agree that I think, first of all, we should concentrate on getting one system of identification. That is extremely important. And once we have that, we will reduce all this avoidable procurement expenditure and all that.
That's the middle of ICT. What's ICT?
Yes. So,
It's not integrated
we need
communication technology.
We need to
Why
really
would we
ensure
integrate
that
silos?
we need to ensure that we complete the registration process, and then we can avoid all this. EC can just tap on the database of the National Identification
And then
Authority
that's
and avoid all this. I think it's so needless. But then again, there is a confusion about the independence of the EC and the role of the political parties at IPAC. So the point is, was the EC just going to inform the parties about what they intend to do, or to just seek their permission? Obviously not to seek their permission.
Yeah.
All right.
They're key stakeholders.
Yes, of course. Because when recently the referendum issue came, some people were saying that the president was interfering with the performance of the function of the EC.
I still hold that view.
You see, so you are probating and reprobating, and that would be a problem. But of course, I'm saying that the EC needs these people to also help in make their contribution and enhance their policies. But they should not also feel that they need the permission, so the authorization of the political parties before they perform their function. They can never be able to do so. So I think that by and large, they should look at the budget as they did, like Parliament did last year. I think 1.2 was slashed to 800 million. They should look at it again. First of all, they should just cancel this re-registration thing. We'll use the 400 million for something else. I think that is what is going to be used for the re-registration. 400 million. That should be taken off.
You can provide additional support for free SHS.
Yes. And then we'll be left with maybe 1.4 or so. Reconsider it. Times have changed.
Asking for more money.
Than what has been provided.
What the government has given them is enough. The 1.05 or so billion is enough. They can use that. Because how are we going to lose this much money every 4 years? It's just unfair.
It's kind of empire building.
All right, let's move on.
I
Now.
don't get.
Let's deal with the presidential media encounter, and I'll start with you, Sydney.
Who, me?
Yes.
Why? I didn't even listen to it.
Oh, and then start with me then.
All right, so let's watch a sense of what happened. Yes, to give Sydney a better perspective.
Yeah, we'll see our points time.
The encounter began with President Akufo-Addo giving an account of his stewardship in the last 3 years of the NPP administration. He mentioned the free SHS policy, which he says has been a phenomenal success, and the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. He also took jabs at former President John Mahama for his claims about unprecedented infrastructural development during his tenure.
Many places as you're passing through the town, so they point to you. So even when your window is open, you can see them making the gesture. You see how. So you then know that the unprecedented infrastructure development really didn't exist anywhere other than in the Green Book, but it didn't live on the ground.
Then the time for questions from the journalists followed. The president, in his responses, challenged persons making allegations of corruption to provide evidence for investigations.
These accusations against my appointees, there is not one allegation that has been leveled against any of them that has not been investigated. They're not investigated by me. I know there's a big cry in NDC circles that I'm Mr. Clear President. I don't clear anybody. I don't have the power to clear anybody because I don't have the power to investigate anybody. I'm not an investigating agency. I'm a president. I'm an executive leader of the country. I don't do investigations. Investigations are done by STRAS. They're done by the parliament. They're done by the police. And when they give me a report that they have not found any basis for the allegation, I accept it because that is the way that our institutions have to work.
On the banking sector crisis, which has resulted in some 3,000 job losses, President Akufo-Addo said the situation would have been worse if government had not intervened.
We had no choice. We had, in fact, delayed in acting, would have been very much more condemned by history as being irresponsible in the face of that crisis than the interventions that we made. It is unfortunate. The banking crisis is the monies that are involved in trying to preserve the savings of 4.5 million Ghanaians, 15, 16 billion CDs. That money could have found better use. Don't let me use the word better use. But I could certainly imagine what it could have done for our roads, for our hospitals, for our schools, instead of it being sunk in trying to shore up the system.
President Akufo-Addo also touched on the current economic situation of the country. Though he admits things are tough, he says the government is doing all it can to mitigate the plight of Ghanaians.
The 9.3 deficit has now been turned into a 4.5 deficit. Like this year's budget has come in the wake of legislation that is capping, by law, the fiscal deficit of 5%. Fortunately, the management of the economy is in such a way that we're able to meet that statutory figure. Our economy is projected to be one of the fastest growing in the world. And over these last 3 years has been on an average growth of 7%.
All state institutions will from January next year rely on locally produced goods for all government programs and initiatives. The president announced that he has directed state institutions to use Ghana rice and other made-in-Ghana products.
All of us need to get involved in this drive towards self-sufficiency. We should all eat Ghanaian rice as a beginning for all of us. Each one of us in our homes, we make a conscious effort to tell our wives and cousins or whoever it is responsible to buy Ghana rice. That is what is happening in this place. It's happening in my house in Nima, and it is happening here. And I'm giving directions that by the 1st of January this year, all the state institutions are going to have to now live off Ghanaian produce and Ghanaian rice.
On the One District, One Factory program, the president said 58 factories had been completed, while 26 more were under construction.
It's so important for the future of our country. We have to provide the basis for rural industrialization in Ghana. The figures There are some who are very quick to ask the question, this one factory, one this, we don't see any. Where are they? I have a list here of the 58 ones that are operating, their name, their places where they are.
So that's President Akufo-Addo completing that report by Mensah Opoku. Sydney, you now have a fair idea of what the president said. Or what happened there?
Well, what happened in terms of the credibility of what he was saying, or the caliber of questions that were asked?
His reflections, what he said, where the direction is taking the country, where his last comments on the one district, one factory, and how well it's doing and all of that.
Look, in the past, let me just preamble with this, and then I'll get into the issues. You see, in the past, this encounter with the president has always been an opportunity for the media to try and demonstrate its deeper understanding, or should I say, its skill in being able to ask complicated questions of the president, hopefully to be able to put him in a position where he will be fumbling. And that then becomes the media frenzy which we use. I think this time around we didn't do that. I think there's been a lot more straight open questions of trying to get him to explain the issues. I confess I did not watch the encounter, but listening to the brief excerpts of what we have now, I can sense a little bit of agitation in his tone and where he's going, because it looks like as if from where Nonado is coming from, he's doing quite a significant
but this is the president, so he's confronting the issues.
And you see, I am so firmly behind what is being done as a shift in the way the economy and the structure of the economy is run in the country. I've been such a passionate believer in the things that are being done now, which I think should have been done a long time ago. And if had we done that, we wouldn't be where we are today. When I was much younger, in sixth form, I think, then we had our Operation Feed Yourself with Kutu Achiampong. We were so passionate about it, we didn't have any problems sacrificing our weekends to go and cut grass and do things at Dawenya and everywhere else. And we went passionately with no reservation whatsoever, even though at that time we didn't have the kind of freedom and liberties that we had now. But we did go. I mean, we went, even under coercion. We went willingly and didn't complain. And that was the time when we could see the progress and end result of our efforts. Yeah. Okay. During that period, we had a bumper harvest in maize. We had a bumper harvest in so many other crops and things like that. And had we just carried on, irrespective of what happened, had we just carried on with some of those programs, we would have been way ahead of where we are today. Industry and factory doesn't develop without supply. You need to give them the raw material to do it. This issue we have had, the brouhaha we have had with the Comenda Sugar Factory. Comenda Sugar Factory was not built by the NDC. Neither was it built by anybody. It was built a long time ago. Okay? And for us not to even see, as a minister, if you are in charge of agriculture and you cannot understand, and as a Minister of Trade and Industry, you cannot see that you cannot run a factory without the supply of the raw material which you need for the factory to work, then it doesn't make any sense. It makes a total mockery of all the people who have been to universities and studied in a particular sector before they've been made sector ministers. So if you can't see that you need so much volume of sugarcane of a particular variety to be able to feed a sugar factory, and we spend so much money after all these years, and the factory is still sitting there and cannot operate. The short-sightedness of all of it is just pathetic. And we need to look at ourselves again and ask ourselves that when we put people in charge of certain sectors, Are we putting them in charge there just to pay them a salary and for them to look after their family and their villages and their communities? Or are we paying them to be able to move things forward? You see, we have state-owned enterprises that unfortunately have become monopolies. Because if you take many of our state-owned enterprises, they were set up in order to be able to fulfill a need and a gap. Now we've arrived at a point, okay, where they are not performing. They are not delivering what they are supposed to deliver, but we are still paying the people who are supposed to be in charge. So all we are doing is just giving people money just to sit home, spend 4 years of their lives, maybe 5, 6 years of their lives, just running an institution and then going home to go and sit in a mansion which they don't really deserve. See?
Okay.
So when I take all the issues that the MPP is proposing and is actually trying hard to fulfill, I agree with it. I agree with it so significantly. Yes, I might have a couple of reservations about 1 or 2 sectors, but by and large, give me 80 to 90% of what the NPP's government is trying to achieve. I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I've said many, many times on this program, this country, for example, does not need airports in Ho. We don't need an airport in several places, except to use those airports as a means of West Africa travel.
Okay.
But internally, why would I even catch a plane from Accra to Ho? I can drive to Ho in 3 hours. If I have a train service, a nice, good, efficient, fast train service, I should be able to do it in half the time.
This is
or less.
A lot of people will not agree with you.
Well, fine. It's my opinion.
Okay.
It's my view.
All right. So, Cindy, please wrap up so that we can.
I brought my green book home.
Let me just.
I have my green book here.
Okay. Let me just land. If rather than focusing on aviation and travel within Ghana, all right, I can fly to Kumasi in 30 minutes. I can fly to Tamale in 45 minutes. I can get to Wa in Bolga within 50 minutes or less than an hour.
Okay.
All right, by plane. I can do that same distance with a train and have more passengers on that train and get there quicker and better. Why, therefore, am I wasting my money
to build
developing internal flights? I want a train service that I can go to Tamale within less than 1 hour, do a full day's work there, come back with a train service.
All right.
Then I know I'm actually working.
Okay.
So
Frankly,
for me, all of this that we are doing, yes, there are pluses and minuses, but there are some things that have to be done. So train, get it done.
Okay.
All right? Factories, get them built. Employment for the youth, get them done. Educate the youth, absolutely essential.
Okay.
What we could go on forever.
Frankly.
So, my views.
No comments on this media encounter.
Well, I think it's in keeping with accountability, and I think the president did that. I didn't have notice of it until I think
Thursday,
it was supposed to be done. So I think it's a good thing. Yes, questions were asked, and the president provided context and answers. I don't know whether you're asking me.
What's your assessment of the
program? I think it was a good encounter. Clearly, it was a good encounter.
I was only issues that you
I don't know. Maybe the People's Assembly makes it easier for the ministers to also answer questions as well. I don't know whether there will be such encounters for some of the ministers to also. The president does well with that. Usually, when you meet, of course, privately, when you meet him and the ministers are asked to answer questions. I think it would have been interesting.
In previous years, when he relayed the questions to ministers, it was interpreted that the president was not on top of issues. So yesterday, the effort was made, and yesterday, he answered all the questions all by himself. And usually, the questions on the economy, previously, he would direct them to Dr. Bawumia. There was a question about health, he would direct it to the health minister. Foreign affairs, the Oslo matter was brewing last year, was directed to Sharia.
This time, you say he was better prepared.
So that's the assessment generally now, that this year he answered all the questions by himself, and he seemed...
Anyway, I'm just saying that it's an interesting encounter, and we need more of those. I mean...
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sidney should have watched the whole clip. Because he says that he doesn't understand why a minister will build a sugarcane factory without even having the feed for the factory.
But that was one of the issues that came up.
Wait.
The audits, the PwC audit.
Wait. Oh, why?
Okay. We don't have a lot.
The president, in his state of his media encounter, said that he knew that facilities for senior secondary school would be a challenge. That he knew. And that he was not going to embark on the mission to build facilities before he declared free education. And that they will, after declaring it, they will start working on the challenges.
Are you not comparing two different things?
Well, please.
It's a question.
Look, don't be taking me back.
I didn't interrogate them.
I have brought my green. Mr. President, I'm here with my green book.
Yes.
In fact, what the president said is the very definition of incompetence.
Really?
That when I'm going on a journey, then they point to me
that the roads are bad.
And now I'm thinking the green book. So what was the rules? That's the definition of incompetence, ineptitude. You should be answering to the needs of the people and telling them this is what I'm putting in place to do your roads.
If we were told that all the roads have been fixed,
the green book is here.
If we were told that
the green book is
nice infrastructure, see, all those roads are there in the green book.
When they are shaving you, you don't rub your head. You'll be cut by the blade. He says, we are working on many road projects to open up the country to reduce road traffic accidents.
This is which page of the green book?
Oh. Duke, I know your mission, page 99. But I will say what I want to say.
This is the NDC green book.
Yes. The celebrated, the famous green book.
Boost economic activities and bring foodstuffs to the market centers with ease. Despite the large number of road projects underway, there still remains a lot to be done in the sector. There is, however, considerable evidence to show that no effort is being spared.
You are a roads minister.
Yes.
Duke.
So I want to have some bites. Let him have. Allow me. And we brought pictorial evidence. There's pictorial evidence in the Green Book. And the Quran.
Which one is that?
In the Quran.
Circle Dubai.
God says that I make the earth to rotate around the sun. Which sign of what I have said do you not believe?
This is interesting.
I'll make you breathe in oxygen which I have provided free of charge. Which sign do you not believe that I am God? Look, in the pictorial evidence, which sign does President Akufo-Addo not believe?
The roads they are showing him, the chiefs are showing him.
It's here that we fixed the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Which sign does he not believe?
Let's see the rest.
That we did the American House Road to Ashali Boche. Does he not believe? That we fixed the GIFAC 37 to Novotel, or what is the name of that hotel?
La Palm.
La Palm. It's not true. That we fixed the Awoshi-Pokwasi Road. It's not true. That we fixed the Burma Camp Road. Is it not true?
These are in all in Accra. He's talking about the villages, the chiefs that he visits them.
He said Green Book. There is no any other Green Book apart from Gaddafi's Green Book. The only Green Book that we have in Ghana is this on roads. The president simply hasn't even seen the Green Book. He's just repeating propaganda by his serial callers.
So what are you
saying? He turned himself into a serial caller.
So what are you saying? What are you saying?
Hey, look.
I say that Akufo-Addo say he doesn't believe in the road development.
He doesn't believe that the earth rotates.
He doesn't believe that the earth rotates around the sun. He doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that the road pictures, the pictures that we have here, is indeed true. And I'm asking him, which sign does he not believe?
But in laying the preamble, you said that many of these road projects were underway. You laid the preamble.
Asoboy Road. He doesn't see it.
Which road?
Agona Junction to Elebo Road. He doesn't see it. And Asankregwa, he doesn't see it. Boto Dove, Segakope Road, he doesn't see it. The Yendi Gushegu Road, he doesn't see it. I'm talking about pictorial evidence.
Okay, apart from that, any other sector of the
president says the Green Book, there's nothing.
But
so
okay.
You see, so these are the roads, right? These are the roads.
He doesn't.
This is Fufusu Sola.
He doesn't see the Fufusu Sola.
This is Fufusu Sola.
So these are the roads without more. Is that not it?
No. I'm just demonstrating by pictorial evidence.
That
but region by region.
But you see,
or you want to give me time? You want to extend? You want to extend the time?
We have a few minutes.
So the Green Book, Mr. President, is entitled "Accounting to the People." That's the name of it. There's no green book. The book is called Accounting to the People.
I
If you give me time, I will take you through region by region.
We don't have that. We don't have the time. Honorable,
you want it?
Alexander Aban.
This is my Bible.
I haven't got one.
Thankfully, this is my Bible.
I never received one.
I'll give you one later.
Thankfully, whatever he has brought is the exhaustive list of what they had done. But the impression had been created.
Which impression?
That
you created
they had fixed all the roads.
No, nobody created that impression.
Oh, take your time. Take your time.
Nobody
Because he read in the preamble that most of the road projects were under.
You always accused the president at that time, then candidate,
that he was sleeping,
being asleep.
Yes,
when he was on those very motorable roads that you had done. Right? You have brought the pictorial evidence. Probably you should tell me, is this exhaustive, or what else had you done?
Oh, this is not exhaustive.
That you had not seen.
This is not exhaustive.
This is all that you had done.
This is not. No,
and
no,
you
no.
created the impression that
this is not exhaustive.
You created the impression that
you know
everywhere. Where the Eastern Corridor?
No, the Eastern Corridor.
The
whole Fumi Road.
Burkinabe Road. Burkinabe. That guy, your friend.
The whole Fumi Road. Down by
Kanazue.
It's not. It's not here.
It's a Kanazue Road.
The Kanazue Road.
That's the Fusu Road.
That was
no, it's not Fusu.
Fusu was down by Kanazue.
No.
Some shambolic work that you got that guy.
No.
Fusu for
it's not Kanazue. Fusu Road was done by 2 Chinese companies.
Okay.
So which other roads?
But Inusa,
this road that you have isolated,
if you guys were in power and you didn't do
an
this,
infinitesimal point of what
so
we
if
need
we were
in the
in
country.
power and we didn't do this, what would we have done? If MPP is in power and they are pointing to roads and they can't do it, and their solace is in referring people to the Green Book, what can they do?
The president did not only talk about the roads sector. He spoke about a lot of issues.
And he then gave the deficit. He gave the deficit.
Can we get to the issues? Your impressions about
it's 9.6. It's 6.2 in the budget.
Okay.
Yes, I'm listening.
Your impressions about the encounter, media encounter.
Oh, in all sincerity, I did not watch the entirety of it, right? Because my boss was there, and I was supposed to be in the chamber because we were going to take the health budget. Even that we could not do it. So in all sincerity, I could not watch it. Yeah, I know we are going to do it on Monday. So in all sincerity, I could not watch it. But the excerpts that you have shown, if it is just anything to go by, then the president discharged himself equitably. Creditably.
Okay, we have a few minutes.
So
final issue. Just saying, we are the 2 lawyers on my panel. What do you make of his appointment? Nominee, president, nominee for Chief Justice?
Fantastic. Probably people should understand where he's coming from. You know, usually people apply, okay, to be on the bench.
Okay.
And there are also people who may not necessarily apply, but the judicial service itself or the judicial council would say that this man is good and that person will be invited. Or the bar would even suggest names. So let us start from where he was one of the people suggested by the Eastern Regional Bar.
Oh, okay.
Okay, as very, very good. And so that's how he got appointed. And when he was appointed, initially he was taken to the Court of Appeal. It was he himself who said that he wanted to
start from High Court.
Yes, at the High Court. He discharged himself so creditably. And I think within 2 years or something like that, he went to the Court of Appeal.
I think the very year.
That very year.
Right? So he went to the Court of Appeal. After all, he had now got the basis of, Court of First Instance. Then Court of Appeal 2, he did so well, right? Then
3 years.
Supreme Court. Right? So I think he's a fantastic choice. And on a personal note, he's a vandal too. So you see,
you have said, you told me on Wednesday that you think he should have been Justice Doche.
Yeah. On a personal note, I commended Justice Nyebua. Yes. On a personal note, I have appeared before him at the Court of Appeal.
All right.
I have no doubt about his competence and capacity to work.
Okay.
But I'm just looking.
If your procedure is not good,
he will tell you. And then he's so forceful. If you are before him and you are not properly prepared.
Please,
he will tell you that you're not prepared. But
will he make any major changes to the?
I want him to do
to the court system.
A lot of people have said
that we can get faster decisions.
On that note, we are told that he are told that he himself Asad, one of his children, had to go to the Gambia instead of the Ghana law school. So he has first-hand information of this, the challenges with the Ghana.
So those who are thinking that I'm opposed to Oniyegwa should better. I'm
all right,
not
so
opposed
that's how we wrap up this morning's discussion on the big issue here on Citi TV. Don't forget that the Made in Ghana Christmas Made in Ghana Fair is going on currently at the Aviation Social Center. Don't miss out on this one, especially the Jollof Wars. My name is Mensah Opoku. I sat in for a regular host, Godfred Akotobo. For in studio, Alexandra Aban, Member of Parliament for Gumwa West, Deputy Minister of Health, Yusuf Seni Alhaji. Yes. So that's how we wrap up. That is we also had the usual suspect, Sidney Kesley for the Franklin Kujo. Keep watching Citi TV. Enjoy the rest of our program.